Good morning, everyone. Today is April the 25th. It's a great day in the neighborhood. I hope you're enjoying your day so far. Thank you for joining us. We are going to be discussing sick and vacation accruals and making sure that you are compliant with the local laws regarding sick time. We want to make sure that everything is good for you. And if you have not had PayrollCentric, start tracking your accruals. Please make arrangements for that. All you need to do is send us an email, and we will send a response back with a proposal and how long it will take to set it up. So please do that for us. Charles, you are going to be the expert today in this topic, so I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for being here, everyone.
Thank you very much, Saundra. And I'm just going to go ahead and skip from this lovely little title page and go into the form that we have. Now, basically what we do here is we have this setup checklist to help determine what your policy is. A lot of our clients will call in and they'll say, can I use these codes even though I don't have a setup or how that works? And yes, we do have vacation, sick, PTO codes, personal time off, birthdays, anniversaries. All of those we can add to your company. And do you need a policy in place to use them? No. But what a policy will do for you is the policy will enable you to track accruals and keep an idea on how much they're using and how much they have accrued, and all that basically, takes over from, the manual spreadsheets that you may have. Now here you see this, the actual worksheet that we have, because what we do is there's a lot that's involved in an accrual setup. How many times per pay, is it per pay period? Is it hourly? Is it monthly? Things like that. Are there different accrual tiers, rates of accrual depending upon length of service, that kind of thing. And some of our clients will have accruals, basically an annual award for their anniversary, an annual award for birthdays, all sorts. And you can have them for hourly, for salaried people, different locations. And in fact, there was one where we had to set up a separate one for San Diego because San Diego had its own rules for time off for sick pay. That being said, the rule for vacation is that it's not required in the state of California, but if you do have a vacation policy, then anything that is paid out, anything that is accrued has to be paid out when they leave your company. That can be found in the California Department of Industrial Relations website, as well as the rules for the state sick policy. Are there different sick policies for different municipalities? Yes, San Francisco has one. I believe San Diego has one. So you do want to check what the rules are for the different locations. So here is where we have the form, as I mentioned before. And here you can put in the company's name and the accrual name, like what type of accrual is it? For instance, we do have examples of sick pay salary, PTO, which you can have as a blanket policy where if they're sick or they're on vacation, it's the same policy regarding. You can have all sorts of items that we can put in. And the other thing that we can do is, and this is a feature that is kind of nice that I've used a few times myself, is if you happen to have a policy that you've called one thing, but it's supposed to apply to vacation or sick codes, because you still want to track what time they've had off that's sick or time that's vacation, we can actually group those codes when they're being used to all feed into the same policy. So you have a PTO policy, and whether or not you use a sick code in payroll or a vacation code in payroll, they will feed into it. You let us know that that's what you want, we can set that up. We will just group those codes together for that purpose. The next thing we have on here is accrual method. Which method is being used to calculate hours accrued? Now you can do an annual one, you can do a per pay period accrual, you can do an hourly accrual, and if it's going to be an hourly one, you want to let us know which hours are going to be used to calculate that. For instance, do you want them, when they take bereavement or jury duty, to have those hours go towards their accrual? You can let us know about that. Then is there a probationary period? A probationary period is a period where the employees accrue, but they can't use. right? So the accrual starts from the date of hire, but they're not able to use it for the first 90 days. That is something that's used because it's part of the policy for the California sick time. One of the options is that it starts right away if they meet certain requirements. And then you can institute a probation period if you want them to work for you for a little while before they actually use it. This is different than starting an accrual 2 months after they've started, right? That would be the start time for the accrual. And yes, we can set it up to where they don't accrue anything for the first 2 months. And then once the 2 months kick in, then they can start accruing. We can set it up for that. So basically, you would attach the policy to the employee when you're hiring them. You don't have to wait 2 months to attach it. And what I mean by attach is we set up the policy at the company level, at the upper level. And then when you go into our dash system and you start hiring people, then you go into their time off section and you start attaching the appropriate policy to them. Why do we do it that way? We do it that way because, again, you can have sick policies or vacation policies or PTO policies for different groups of people, and you don't want to have all of them automatically get the same one, because what if it doesn't apply to them? What if there's a different one? That being said, we can also set it up so that that automatically does get added to a group of employees if you wish for us to do that. Again, we have the ability to automatically attach it to an employee or not. That is up to you, but this gives you the option to control it when you're adding the new hire. And that's the difference between, and again, as I was going back, that's the difference between a probation period, which the accrual starts right away, but they can't use it, or an accrual that is set back a few months, where they don't get to accrue until they've been there for a while. And then we have next is the accrual table, and this is where you set up the different rates of accrual. And what I mean by that is you can have it where there's a rate of accrual. They earn 4 hours per pay period from their first year to their fourth. And then when they reach their fifth year, it's going to be 6 hours per pay period, that kind of thing. And so what we ask for is the length of service. And this is where we do it by when it starts, right? So it starts right away, or it starts in 12 months, or it starts in 24 months, that kind of thing. And then the accrual amount, that's going to be how much they accrue per accrual period, whether it's hourly, per pay period, annual, that kind of thing. And then we have a balance maximum. The balance is going to be how much they can carry at any given time. It's different than the total max. The total max is going to be a combination of what has been used and what is their current balance. So that's a little different. You don't want to necessarily put anything in there necessarily. You do want to use the balance max to say they can't have more than 500 hours at any given time. Carryover is if you have a accrual where they carry over, like say 6 days of vacation into the new year, that's where you put that maximum. And then we have other maxes, max negative, max used, max accrue, and they're all described down here, right? So total max, this column indicates if there's a limit to the total amount of hours available and used an employee can have. And that one can get tricky because that can eliminate their accrual based on if their usage has not been cleared out. It can get a little tricky. So that's a little bit more complicated. That's going to be more advanced. If you happen to have that kind of advanced kind of accrual, you can talk to us one-on-one. The carryover max, as I said, if the accrual clears at the end of the year, balances do not carry over. You indicate that as 0. If there's no limit to carryover, you list it as, like, say, 99999. Otherwise, you list the balance amount that transfers from year to year. And that's basically how much they get to carry over into the next year, into the next policy period. Max negative, if employees can use accrual hours that will make balances negative, indicate how many hours they may go negative, right? So if they've earned a certain amount, and they're going to earn more during the year, but they need to take their vacation or their sick time right away, you can set it to where they'll have a negative that they carry over, and it will, the negative amount will decrease as they continue to work for you as they work it off. And then there's max use. This is going to be able to limit the number of hours that can be used in 1 year. So you can tell it that they can only use a certain number of hours in that year, regardless of what their balance maximum is. And then a max accrued will indicate any limit that an employee can accrue in 1 year, right? And this may be different from a balance max because you can have a maximum balance of 500, and but that's different than how much they can accrue. How much they can accrue says they can accrue no more than 500 at any given year, even if their balance is, say, 600, right? So they can carry over a certain amount from the previous year, but they can't accrue more than a particular amount in a year. And then the accrual year, what time frame is being used for the accruals 12-month period? This will go towards how we zero out the usage so that that it's not carried over and over and over again. So you look at it and you'll see that they've used like 2,000 hours of sick time because we didn't set it up to where it would zero out at the end of a period. And this is where you can let us know what the accruals 12-month period is. We have calendar years, employees' anniversary dates, even July 1st through June 30th. There are some that are set up like that, or any other that you have. And then negative balances, this is going to be where you have questions about, do you want to allow employees to use more hours than available in the scenario that I just mentioned? And you can give us information on that, how we would put that into play. And then also there's on the check stub, how do you want this to appear on the check stub? Do you want us to show their hours balance or the dollar amount? Do you want us to show how many hours they've used? Do you want us to show their usable hours, which may vary from available hours if there's a cap on usage, right? If they can only use a certain number of hours in a year, regardless of whatever their balance is, then that's what the usable hours will report. And then the eligibility setup, what employees are eligible? And this is, again, where we talk about the accrual will be added manually to employees. That's what I mentioned before. When you're adding an employee in, you'd be adding the policy to them at that time. And then you have the system add accruals during the payroll process to any eligible employees. And this is where you would fill out the information as to what those requirements would be, what would qualify them to have that added automatically. Are they part-time, full-time, salaried, hourly, and we can set up groups for that specific purpose that would be linked to information on the employee when you add them. And then you have a spot for any additional notes. So that's basically the form. How we add it into the system, we set up the policy at our level, and then you'd be able to add it to the employee either under the employee section under their time off, or when you're adding the employee. So at this point, this is the form that you would provide us the policy for. Any questions?
I don't see any questions in the chat. But one thing I would like to say, if I may, Charles, is when you take a look at the check stub option, we recommend that you choose the check stub option. For the very simple reason that California does require that you show your employees what they have available and what they've used. And the check stub is the easiest way to do that because it automatically populates when a check is created. So that's something to consider. And they can always look it up if they have employee self-service. They can see it there as well. But the check stub is the easiest way to do it, and you don't have to worry about it because PayrollCentric will accommodate that requirement for you. And then secondly, Charles, I wanted to say that I worked for a company years ago and this is just something to consider because I thought it was a great policy. The employees were required to take a minimum of 1 week vacation every year. And the reason for that was efficiency. One, it was most important because it was a small business and the employer really cared about our well-being. It's a way to refresh, right? You can go away, you walk away from your desk, and somebody else will handle your work when you're gone. And it was also an efficiency way to monitor how does the company function when you're away? Are you well enough set up so that somebody could sit at your desk and see where you are and carry on so that things don't drop? This was an insurance agency. And then it was also a way to find out if we needed more employees. Did we have to have somebody who was a floater who could cover when people were on vacation? And so it really was a really good policy. And I believe that the employees, including myself, appreciated the opportunity to know that I could take a vacation, not feel guilty about it. It was a requirement. And also, I came back refreshed knowing that somebody had taken over some of the things that I did that couldn't wait for that week or 2 weeks, and the company was better for it. So, something to consider. Another way you can add your vacation hours is to, or even sick time hours rather, is to front load it at the first part of the year. This is something that many companies do so that they don't need to worry about tracking when it's all gone, because we'll do that for you if you'd like to set it up that way. But front loading means if you're going to give them, the requirement now is 40 hours of sick time every year in California. And there are certain municipalities where that might be different. Charles can address that. But that way they use it because it's already there. But when it's gone, it's gone. They're all done. And then that's where you go into the negative. Can they use hours in the negative and then make it up when they are able to, when they come back to work? Sometimes somebody is going to be out sick for a long time and the short-term disability doesn't kick in quickly enough. So they might combine taking their PTO and their vacation hours so that they still get paid while they're out. And then when the disability kicks in, you can stop that. So there's a lot of different scenarios. And if you have any questions about that, all of our payroll specialists are skilled in giving answers. Charles is especially skilled in this area because he's done it so many times. And if by chance you start the accrual process that we help you with, they need tweaking. So please be patient with us because many of you have complicated accrual methods. And so it's kind of like it works now, but some things might go awry. And so we need to be notified of that quickly so that we can get you back up to speed again. So thank you for your patience in that regard. So that's what I have to say, Charles. Did I do okay?
Oh, you did fine. You did fine. And yes, there are differences with the municipalities. You can always check to see, and you can find those basically on their websites. I usually will Google like Santa Monica sick to see if there's something there. I don't think there's anything in Santa Monica, but I do remember there was one in San Francisco because I remember when it was implemented, we had all these questions for people located in San Francisco. And the same thing with San Diego. So we had all these kind of different questions about these. And usually if you just look up sick time or PTO and then the location, you'll find the resources. And I always go to the government websites, right? I go to the ones that are actually the city of San Diego or the county of Los Angeles or something like that. But by and large, mostly in California, it's the California Sick Law. And I always refer to this wonderful resource. It's the California Department of Industrial Relations. It has an entire section devoted to answering employer questions, And that being said, we can't advise you what type of policy you should have if you decide to have a vacation policy or if you decide to be more generous than a minimum required for California sick, but we can help you implement what you want going forward. If you want something that carries over, if you want something that's I have some clients who do payouts of the vacation time. If it's not used at the end of the year, it gets paid out. So we work on setting that up. All sorts of different methods that people handle this. And so there is no requirement to have vacation time in the state of California. I don't think in the United States at all, just that it's being applied consistently. And you do want to have something like that covered in, say, some sort of handbook. And we do have resources actually for you that can assist if you would like to choose that. We do have some partners in the human resource area, while we are not actually human resource specialists ourselves. Although I think, Saundra, you said in the past that you have dabbled in that.
Dabbled, yeah, I was a VP.
But what our main thing is to try and implement what you have put together. And this setup checklist actually does it. And it probably asks you questions where it's like, I hadn't thought about that. But our main goal is in in the policies themselves to make sure that it properly reflects what you have intended it to be. We can't really advise you on that. I have had people go, well, what does everybody else have? It doesn't matter what everybody else has. It matters what you want. You are the client. You tell us what accrual policy you want. We'll do our best to implement it. We'll try and work out, what doesn't work, what does work, and get it to, and maybe even help you fine tune it in terms of, well, we can do it this way or we can do it this way, and then go from there. But this is your company. These are your employees. The decision is yours.
Perfect. And if you're interested in looking at accruals for us to provide that to you, please contact me directly, because that is an additional service for you, and I will send you a quote. It's not expensive. It's worth it, especially if you've got a lot of people that you're tracking, just to be sure that it's accurate and in compliance. Remember us, compliance ease and care, so we want to make sure that you are compliant with what the laws are. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We hope you found the information useful, and we are very, very pleased and thankful that you are part of our PayrollCentric family. Goodbye for now.